Welcome to the Pindown, your Detroit Pistons podcast. I'm your host, Wes Davenport from Motor City Hoops and Detroit Bad Boys.
And I'm Blake Silverman, writer for Detroit Bad Boys, covering everything from the Pistons to the NBA draft and the Motor City Cruise.
And guys, if you're tuning in live right now, we apologize. We're dealing with a little bit of tech issues. Still might be, so hopefully everything's going to come through okay. But as we get started going here this evening, I want to start off with just a little quiz here for Blake. And you guys, if you're listening at home or if you're listening live, go ahead and play along too. I'm going to read off a couple of stat lines. The first one's going to be Ausar Thompson. And then the second one is going to be a guy that I thought pre-draft for Ausar was a pretty good comparison. And I went back today and kind of checked on how it went. So here we go. So you're going to try to guess the player, guess who it is. I'll even give you the year that it was. So for Ausar Thompson last year, we had 12.6 points, 9.1 rebounds, 2.7 assists, and 1.5 steals, 1.3 blocks. He shot 48, 18, and 60. All right, so now the other guy, this would have been in the 04-05 NBA season. It was his age 22 year. All right, he scored 13.1 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, 2.3 assists, 2 steals, 1.5 blocks on 45, 28, and 66. That being from field, 3-point, and free throw line, respectively. Now, this guy, he did shoot more free throws that year. He shot close to 5. Ausar was close to 3. But I want some guesses. I want to hear your reasoning. Who do you think this is? Give me some thoughts.
Ooh, it's a tough one. A little behind the curtain. Wes just dropped this in our outline, so I was trying to think of it before. I mean, all I got is what he said, the year, the age, but nothing else. So I was thinking of it. I'm going to ask for a quick hint. It's not a Piston, right?
No, it is not a Piston.
Okay, so I know I'm going to be wrong, but my best guess, and just because the reasoning is because I know Ausar Thompson got this comp, and I'm trying to think of players who would be in this age range within the year. I want to say Andre Iguodala was a rookie around then. I feel like that's wrong just because I don't know. I don't know if he was averaging that much that early on, but that's the only name that comes to my mind. So I'm waiting to be wrong, but if it's right for some reason, it'll be a happy surprise.
All right, well, here, it is wrong, but I'll give you a second guess. I'm going to read off the year that I thought was this guy's like best overall season. All right, so this was like his peak year. Would have been 15 points per game, 7.5 rebounds per game, 1.5 assists, 4.6 stocks on 54, 28, 61. So still not a good shooter and not a good free throw shooter. And that was like probably his best. He had better scoring seasons, but that was like all around probably the most impressive year, in my opinion, out of this guy.
Oh, man. It's not like, I don't know why I was thinking of Sean Marion, but that's definitely not because he didn't peak that late. Man, I feel like you're just gonna stump me on this one. I don't know. I can't even put together a guess. So you got to tell me.
All right, it is Gerald Wallace.
Oh, you have brought that one up. I should have known. My mind should have went there. That's a good one.
Yeah, well, so I wanted to go back because, like you said, I've brought it up before. You and I have kind of talked about it as a best case outcome for Ausar Thompson before, and so I kind of wanted to go find the first year that Wallace got the level of minutes that Ausar did in his rookie year, because Gerald Wallace with the Kings really early on, he was just kind of a bench warmer. They really didn't play him hardly at all. So even going,
I didn't even know he played for the Kings. Honestly,
yeah. It was really weird for him early on in his career. But
he's a Charlotte Bobcat to me.
Yes, he's a Bobcat for life. He's a Bobcat for life. But finally, when he gets some decent minutes, these are starters minutes, he ends up putting up that stat line. And I mean, honestly, Asar rebounded the ball better, but I thought overall it was a little more similar than even I was expecting. Asar even finishing around the rim better than Wallace did that year. I don't know. I was encouraged when I saw it.
Yeah, I mean
Shockingly,
the only difference, I mean, looking next to those lines together, the only like big difference that jumps out to me is Gerald Wallace shot close to I mean, a little bit over 27% from three, but that was on basically no volume, like 1 attempt per
right?
game. I mean, at that point in the NBA, like we obviously didn't see the 3 point shooting boom that like that just didn't happen yet. But I mean, Asar shot 18.5% from three last year. So yeah, it's a lot everywhere else you look and it's pretty close. Like even the stock numbers, like Asar was at 2.8 per game. Wallace was at 3.5 just because he averaged 2 steals a game. Asar's at 1.5. So yeah, it's pretty close. I mean, Wallace did turn the ball over a little bit more, so he
Yeah.
must have more like on ball reps than Asar has had the opportunity yet so far. But other than that, it's overall like pretty close across the board.
Yeah, I really thought so. And then, just like looking at even those peak numbers, it was pretty close. Or at least I shouldn't say it was pretty close, but it's reasonable, close enough that it felt reasonable to still kind of hold on to this sort of role for Ausar Thompson if it's very specialized. Like the field goal, the actual like shooting slashes, very similar. The biggest one, like you said, is going to be the 3 point shot, which so Wallace in his probably peak year was 54, 28, 61. Asar's right there on field goal percentage and free throws, but he's about 10 down on the 3 point percentage. A guy improving, about 5 or 6 points per game over ideally the course of a rookie deal, that seems reachable for the guy. And then the hardest thing is probably getting the stocks numbers up to being over 2 per game for both steals and blocks. But I don't know. Do you think he can get to that kind of level?
I don't know if he even needs to get like that high in both steals and blocks. I mean, those numbers from Gerald Wallace were pretty like off the charts, and they were kind of throughout his career. Like he had a string of years where he was averaging 2 steals a game or even over that. I mean, it would be nice if Asar did that. I
Mhm.
think that's more attainable than maybe the block shots. Like I think Gerald Wallace was a better rim protector than Asar is, and maybe will be, but that was more of like what he like that was sort of his bread and butter. I don't know if Asar needs to be that player. I think he can, but overall, like Asar is a crazy good athlete that might help him in a bit there, but I don't know if like he really needs to have those numbers like up all that much. It's just still like impacting the game defensively, hopefully taking some of the tougher defensive assignments away from Cade and Jaden Ivey or whoever else is in the backcourt, and then that would be enough for me, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, he doesn't have to get all the way to that level to be a really good player and be a successful pick for the Pistons. Full disclosure, the reason I went back and did this was last week we very briefly talked about Asar Thompson. Really just like look at that guy as a four moving forwards, and that's probably how you're going to maximize him. He's a fantastic archetype for a modern four with the skills that he has and the areas that he likely can improve in. And so I was curious because Gerald Wallace is a player who not only was really good with the Bobcats, but he he may have played the three back then, but there is no way you can look at that player, what he was then, and kind of port him over to now and say he'd still be playing the three. There's no possible way you could make that argument. He's a four right now. He ended his career as a four with the Celtics as well. So, like seeing that Asar Thompson even rebounded the ball better, which is something you want out of your bigs. Like it just gave me a lot of hope, I should say, for if you could get him in this kind of Swiss Army knife role there as maybe a backup four this year and big minutes behind Tobias Harris, that maybe you can still get this type of flourishing even scoring wise. Because Gerald Wallace obviously ended up, he was an all-star. He got up over 15 points a game. I think that would be great for a star if he could get there. I was kind of questioning it earlier, but I don't know. I've got a little bit more hope now in this kind of Swiss Army knife role. The other one to look at would have been Draymond Green, but I felt that was probably too easy.
You know what's funny is I was thinking of just the two players defensively and like what we were talking about with stocks, and I just thought Gerald Wallace is a much bigger player. I mean, he even if he wasn't the biggest player on the floor, like he was super strong and he just played big even if he wasn't big. And I have their both of their basketball reference pages pulled up right now, and Gerald Wallace is listed at 6'7", 215. And I was like, oh, what's Asar listed at? I bet he's like a little bit smaller right now. We know we've seen the pictures, we've seen rumors that he's added some muscle, got bigger over the summer. Asar is listed on basketball reference as exactly 6'7", 215. So Wes, I just have to give you credit for this comp. Like, what are the odds that it's exactly the same length and size?
Yeah, the physical side of it was kind of wild because Wallace was a nuclear athlete as well. I think it starts probably quicker than Wallace was, but
Yeah,
and
better
as you said,
athlete.
Wallace played really strong, so maybe Wallace was the stronger player, starts the quicker, more poppy kind of player. But now, like you said, we got the rumors that he's packed on some strength. He's a lot thicker this year. Maybe that's going to level out too. I don't know. I still think that Asar Thompson, that is, really projects as a very strong four long term. If we can leave the shooting questions aside for a second, but I'm pretty excited about that role for him, and seeing that a comparison I made when he was about to start his rookie year after summer league, still kind of holding, makes me feel very comfortable about that moving as well.
And it's a comp I feel like we didn't really see. Like the common one was the name I brought up in Andre
Iggy and
Iguodala.
Pippen, yeah.
Yeah, and some of those, I feel like I haven't really seen the Gerald Wallace one outside of you bringing it up. So hey, it's a really good one. I hope it catches some steam. I mean, I don't know how much steam it'll really need now that Asar is going into year two and moving on to his career, but it makes sense in the crazy world of player comps.
Well, so the other part of why I wanted to open up with this was because of a great question we got from our guy Laz Jackson at Last Chance on Twitter. He asks, who had a better summer league, Ron Holland this year or Asar Thompson last year? And I'm really curious for your answer more so than mine because you were really high on both of these guys,
Yeah.
where I was comparatively higher on Ron Holland than Asar Thompson. So for me, like it was much more impressive to see how Asar Thompson showed out because my expectations were much lower, whereas Ron Holland kind of just was who I thought he was. So I don't feel like I have too much to add there, at least on the personal level. I'll talk more about basketball wise who maybe stood out more, but I'm curious to see or to hear what your vibe was coming out of this.
Yeah, I think it's Asar to me. I mean, Ron averaged 18.8 points per game over four appearances in summer league. Asar was at 13 and a half over four appearances. So Ron scored. I think he had like one 20-point game, and then he closed it out with like 23 or something like that. But Asar averaged 10 rebounds over that. And more assists than compared to Ron as well. I feel like Asar just did a lot more, but he also showed the crazy athleticism that we all heard about pre-draft, but didn't really see it in the spotlight, especially when he's playing at an OTE, which I mean, Ron was in the G League, so it's not like people are tuning into G League games every night. You sort of have to seek those out, go back and watch it. But to me, I feel like OTE is a bit harder to even watch. I mean, you can find those games, like Amazon Prime did a documentary when Asar was there, but I feel like the Thompson twins were even more of an unknown than Ron Holland going in, and you heard about the crazy athleticism, the versatility that both of them had, but you didn't really see it. And there was that huge debate on the competition level, which was like well warranted, of OTE. So I think him going out there and just showing a little bit of everything was a little bit more impressive to me. They have similar showings for both of them because they're both the fifth pick. They're both really like the spotlight of their team. Ron got probably more on ball reps than he'll see. He did the same thing in the G League. Likewise with Asar, got more ball reps than he probably ever will in his role in the NBA. I think like I don't know. I wouldn't be mad if you wanted to go with Ron, but I think a little bit of leaning towards Asar was just like Summer League was much more hyped and anticipated last year compared to this year just because of the draft class. So that might be playing into it a little bit as well. But I just think the versatility that Asar showed throughout his 4 games in Summer League, like that was more okay, like we thought this is what this guy can do, and now he's actually showing it. And then Ron was a bit like similar in a sense, but we already saw him play a full year against like G League opponents, which is maybe a similar competition level to Summer League. So I just lean a bit toward Asar.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think basketball wise, Ausar Thompson definitely had the more impressive summer league. You're right to call out that the roles were very different. Ron Holland was much more featured offensively. Ausar Thompson was kind of just I mean, he was a bit of a cleanup man. He was kind of a uh, like catch and get the ball out of your hands quickly guy, fast break specialist as well. I think you see that and the fact that he had a little bit less free throw attempts, about one less free throw attempt. He also shot about 2 3-point attempts less per game. And then on top of all of this, he was actually quite a bit more efficient from the floor, which more or less, I would say, goes to the fact he was much more of a play finisher than Ron Holland ended up being used as. But I mean, the key for me was just how much Asar Thompson really stood out defensively last
Mm.
summer. I mean, he was guarding at times, if I remember right, 1 through 5. He was wreaking havoc everywhere, blocking shots, getting run out opportunities. He was just so impactful as a defender in Summer League. And it's rare to say this too. So he was so impactful as a defender in Summer League that after watching 4 games of it, I think most of us who watched those games were very confident that he would be a good rookie defender in the NBA, which, as you mentioned, Summer League is more or less, G League ish level talent. So to have a guy be so dominant there that you just know it's going to translate was pretty insane to watch live and now looking back on it. So I'm with you. I think Asar Thompson had the more impressive summer league, not only because my expectations were lower for him.
Yeah, and didn't Duran and Ivy play like a game last year in summer league, or am I totally mistaken on that?
I thought it was a couple, because Ivy had the whole narrative arc of looking really bad in game one, having a strong second half, and then I think a pretty good second, maybe even third game. And then James Wiseman played as well. So this was the Twin Towers Summer League lineup where Duran was a power forward and he was ISOs at the top of the key, doing fast breaks as the ball handler, shooting threes, all that mess.
Yeah, Duran definitely played because I remember he made a three, and we were all like, "Ooh, is this a little?"
Speak for yourself. I was not like that.
Yeah, so I don't know. The only reason I brought that up is I think the roster that Asar had alongside him was a little better, but it also had more mouths to feed. So maybe that resulted in just not as much opportunity for Asar scoring wise. But even if that was the case, he still showed a decent amount. And yeah, like there were times, I mean, maybe you can debate when Ivy and Duran, and I know they played the Spurs with Wemby, I believe, but there were like, I remember a ton of games looking back on that and being like, Asar Thompson is the clear, like, best player on the floor. Like, he's too good to be here. And that's something like a question you ask in Summer League, but it's more so those second year guys who are coming back, getting some reps, and you're just like, all right, we've seen what we need to see. Like, you're good. I feel like Asar was doing that as a rookie almost. So I can only imagine if, like, I don't know if the plan was for him to play in summer league this year, and then being that he just got cleared for basketball activity right before with the blood clot issues and everything, that didn't happen. But I think if Asar played this year, you would definitely just be like, yeah, this guy just doesn't even need to be here.
Well, you never really got that vibe from Ron Holland. I know he really popped there in the last couple of games, I think it was. But just the efficiency numbers, you could even when he was playing well, you could see the things that he needs to work on as a scorer. And truthfully, if you're looking at the full body of work, most of Ron Holland's game takeaway, whatever you want to call it, from summer league was him as a scorer. He was used as a scorer. He was featured on offense. Defensively, it was fine. He made mistakes that 19-year-olds make. Nothing really stood out, positive or negative. So most of the focus for him was on him as a scorer, the need to be more efficient around the rim in the mid range, shoot better from three, all this stuff. Free throw line as well. Whereas Ausar Thompson wasn't put into that role, possibly because of the guys that were around him, but also because that's not really his game. And he really thrived, like you said, immediately in that Swiss Army knife type of role last summer. So you know what though? Let's stick with this pair. Well, the second half of it. Let's talk about Ron Holland again. This is from our guy Rames. Says, do you think Ron Holland can come off the bench this season and play a useful role? If so, what can he do to help the team next year?
I think he can. I'm still debating and struggling internally with how many minutes he's going to get, like what his role will exactly be. But I mean, you just drafted this guy with the fifth pick. He's in like a ton of the draft circles and everything talk about Ron Holland as the player with maybe the most upside in this draft class. So I think you have to give him those NBA reps to at least show him, at least show like what he can do, and hopefully like learn some things that he can improve on. In terms of the role, I really see him as a guy who can provide some scoring pop, some rim pressure off the bench, just it influx some like energy into the lineup when he comes off, has fresh legs. We know he's a tremendous athlete as well. And also on top of that, like I think he can make an impact defensively. Like you said, Wes, we saw some defensive mistakes that he made in summer league. Like those are going to happen when you're a rookie in the NBA and playing against the best competition possible. But if he can find a way to make an impact defensively, like if he is playing alongside Jaden Ivey, for example, when if he can take some of the defensive workload off Ivy in that second unit and put some pressure on whoever the opponent's like primary scorer is, I think that would be useful. It's tough because I always want to default to, when thinking of a role for rookies, like they're going to have to play defense, and that's the way that they're going to find more minutes and be able to stay on the floor when they're out there. Which I think Ron can do. It's just like it might be a work in progress. Like we might not see that immediately, but I don't think that we're immediately with Ron Holland. Like, you're not going to bring him in and he's going to be a total loss on the defensive side, I think.
So here's the question I have for you, because I have a quibble with this word useful in this question. Useful to what end? Do you think Ron Holland needs to be a net positive player this season in order to have a role for the Pistons? That is like, the second half of this, helping the team presumably win games. Is that something that he, as a 19-year-old rookie, needs to do in order to play?
Yeah, I think I don't know. Like, I think he's going to play no matter what, but I think if you're talking in terms of strict, like, how can he be useful and help this team win games? Like, I think it has to at least start defensively. Like, I can't say how many two-way clips you can pluck from Ron Holland in the G League on getting into a passing lane, like applying ball pressure, coming up with a steal, and turning it into quick transition offense and easy bucket with the athlete he is. So I just think it needs to start there defensively, and then if that's the case, if that shines through on the next level, I think the offense will it be something that's like soon to follow that.
So the only reason, I really focused on the word choice here is just that you mentioned this earlier. They drafted him number 5. He's possibly the highest upside player in this draft. Like, Ron Holland's an investment. Okay, he's not going to be great right away. It's going to take time with this kid. And you look at the moves that the Pistons made this offseason, outside of going and getting a guy like Tobias Harris, nothing really screams we're winning games now. It was more, and I understand this might be a little crazy because of how last season and the off season before it really went. But that was unusual. Okay, usually bad teams have rosters that can at least put a few competent, coherent lineups out on the floor. And the Pistons actually didn't have that last year. They maybe had one. And so Trajan Langdon comes in and he fills up this roster with usable vets who are not in the way of any of the young players that they have, but fill very specific roles that help accentuate the young players on the team, help lift them up, put them in good situations, and give the new head coach flexibility. And so I say all of this to say that I don't think Ron Holland needs to be a positive player this season in order to get minutes. I don't think he's going to need to be, traditionally useful insofar as that it will help the Pistons win more games this season. He's a 19-year-old who plays with incredibly high energy and can probably be a neutral defender, which is really good as a rookie. I'm sure he'll have a few games where he gets hot and he goes off offensively, and that'll be great and really fun to watch. But he's so much an investment, and this team is so much not in a position to win now that I don't think he really needs to be useful, at least in the way that I'm reading this question, if that makes sense. I think he's playing no matter what. And if he gets cold, he gets confidence that gets hurt, all those sort of things, the soft stuff, not like soft as in he's soft, like soft skill sort of stuff, then that's where you might see his role get tapered down or even sent back to the G League and brought up. But in general, he needs minutes. He's going to get them.
Yeah, and the second unit to me is Ivy staggered in with the starting group. Like, you can start there, then insert one of stagger in and out Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway, Ron Holland, Asar Thompson, and Isaiah Stewart as your backup big. So like we just talked about Asar Thompson and Ron Holland, but if they're out there on the floor next to each other, like defensively, I think Asar I mean, it's not like a perfect thing. Asar is still only going to be in year 2, but he can help clean up a lot of things defensively. And then you have two incredible athletes playing alongside whoever is in your backcourt. You add a little bit of floor spacing with Beasley, Hardaway, whoever's out there, and then you also have Stewart. How at least how we think it's going to go, and hopefully he gets more attention from the perimeter and shoots even better from three than we saw. So I think the lineup that he could potentially be playing next to, I know it's not going to be the same every time, but I think it's a good lineup to help him at least like cover up and not just like put a ton of pressure that's like Ron Holland take the ball and just go and do stuff. Like I don't think he's going to need to do that. I think the context that he's playing in, yes, there are going to be injuries, there's going to be different things that happen night in and night out, but I think he might be in an okay position where stuff can come naturally. He doesn't have to force it, and I mean, situation matters. Like we see a ton of guys who go into a specific situation in the NBA, it doesn't work out. They go somewhere else, and it does work out. So I mean, at least on paper, obviously we have to see it and like what it looks like, what JB Bickerstaff's rotations are. But I think Ron will be like the fourth or fifth option offensively, maybe like any time he's on the court, which doesn't put a ton of pressure on him coming out, which I think is huge to help him adjust.
So speaking of the rotations, you just brought up something that our guy JMax760 in the DBB comments was talking about. So he asked, do you think players are better served by having a defined role? And by role, he's saying like always as a starter, or if you can be flexible with lineups to create advantages for those players. Which one benefits the guys more in your estimation?
Ooh, this is a tough one. I don't know. I think it depends on how like if you let's say there's a 4 or 5 game skid, like I hope and this is a lot easier said than done, but I hope like JB Bickerstaff and some of the guys in house will be open to and like maybe even suggest doing something different to help try something new, see if something else works. Because even though we've seen a lot of these guys play together, there's a ton of new pieces. I don't think we'll see one like 5 man, maybe even like 4 man rotation that has all played together before this season. So I think with that and where this team is, you almost have to come into the season with more openness and more flexibility because I think the first portion, like 10 games, quarter of the season, whatever it is going to have to be about figuring out how all these pieces are going to work together, what your best options are. And I mean, define roles like I know we're talking about like starting or coming off the bench, but I think in this, like, we don't necessarily have to pigeonhole Asar into playing the four or something like that. I think it, we think that's the best, like, quote unquote, role for him, but I don't think that is necessarily a need in this situation. And it night in and night out, like I think JB Bickerstaff has done a good job with this about like adjusting things based on matchups or whatever it might be. So I'm hoping we didn't see a ton of it with Monty Williams, but I'm hoping what we see is just different combinations of guys, whether it's tweaking the starting lineup or staggering players in, adjusting the bench unit, whatever it is. Like I think where the team is at, they have to be flexible to some degree.
Yeah, I was going to take this in pretty much the exact same direction you were going to, because at least from experience, not that I've played incredibly high level basketball, but starting and coming off the bench were very different mentally, just in terms of how you prep for the game. The like it's just so hard to be a shooter and to come off the bench cold and know you got to go right away. So like preparing to do that and play that type of role is just very different than knowing you're going to be in at the start of the game and the rhythm that that can allow you to get into in that way. So like if we're just talking about roles as starter or bench, I agree. As long as the bottom's not going to fall out, you really don't want to mess with that too much. The consistency there is really helpful. But if we're talking about roles in terms of, who you play a lot of minutes next to, or if in any given game a guy like Jay Ivy's just struggling as a scorer that night. So you shift more minutes to Malik Beasley, and now maybe you have him close instead of Jaden Ivey. Like you said with Ausar Thompson, maybe he's usually playing the four, but we got a specific matchup where we think he can really wreak havoc on this opposing three man if we get him more minutes next to Tobias Harris, right? Like those types of things, those are great. That's being flexible in the way you're using the chess pieces within kind of the construct of who starts the game where, right? I think we saw Dwayne Casey do this very early on in his tenure in Detroit when the team was actually still competing for a playoff spot. The starting rotation was generally the same, but every now and then the first guy off the bench changes. The amount of minutes that non Blake Griffin would get would change night to night. There was just a lot of flexibility in what he did, as well as he liked to use those all bench lineups too. I think we all hated it back then as well, but there was a lot of flexibility in what he did game to game, and I think that flexibility is really helpful to kind of prop up players and put them in great situations, especially if you can make sure that for all 82 games, the mental prep before a game, after a game, all that stays the same. So consistency there, I would say, is important, but everywhere else, if you can be flexible, do it. It's a great idea.
Yeah, and I think there are like specific roles, I guess, that can be pretty concrete. Like for example, I think if possible, and if there's a clear player, there's not one on the Pistons to me, honestly. But if you have like your six man, if you think of that player as more of excuse me, a six starter, like coming into the game first off the bench, whatever it is, and then like eventually that player getting used to playing that heavy workload, a lot of minutes each night. Like if someone goes down, like you just put that player in the starting lineup and they're already used to playing with whoever the normal starters are. So I think there are some roles like that you can hopefully like work guys into it. That one specifically, I don't know if it's Asar Thompson, Isaiah Stewart, like whoever it ends up being, but hopefully each player can like know what their job is, because if they don't, like it's hard to really do anything, and that's difficult where this team is at, how young this team is, adding a bunch of new veterans. But hopefully that's something along the lines of what JB Bickerstaff instills in them, and how and everyone like really buys into it.
Good call, because there's definitely some roles you don't want to change, right? Like Malik Beasley or Simone Fontecchio are probably the best shooters on this team. You really
Yeah,
don't
you
want that
you
to
shoot the
change.
ball.
Right, exactly. Like if we need a 3-point shot, we want that ball going to Fontecchio, unless it's a game winner, in which case it's probably Cade, which is another role you really don't want changing around that much. The go-to guy at the end of games. As well, another fun one, rim protector. Who's your primary rim protector on this team? Ausar Thompson. That's going to be my guess right now. Truthfully, I think he's probably the best, most talented one on the roster. I know it's weird, but if you can maximize that, you really don't want to be in a situation where your primary rim protector is not being utilized as a rim protector, right? Like, so there are plenty of these that just you don't want to screw with it, and hopefully they don't. Any final thoughts before we move on?
I mean, just a quick thing. It's always like interesting talking about role players and what like roles each guy has. I think I heard this on LeBron and JJ Redick's podcast when they were just podcasters and not player and coach. I think it was Keith Dambrot, LeBron's old coach and recent coach of Duquesne, who said every player is a role player. Like LeBron's role is to be a superstar. Cade's role is to be the guy on this team and like the leader and everything. So, yeah, I mean, you can think like everyone has a role, and I just hope, um, it's hard. I feel like it's a hard thing to learn, but I hope they can just understand what their job is and just really try and excel in that, because that's how things can happen.
There are Hall of Famers that were quote unquote role players. I mean, look close to home. Look at Vinnie Johnson. He was a I don't actually know off the top of my head if he's Hall of Fame or not, but he's an incredible player. He's got his jersey up in the rafters. He came off the bench and he scored. He got buckets. That was his job.
The
He loved it. He was
microwave.
great at it. The microwave. Yep. Joe Dumars, I know, is in the Hall of Fame. He was a 3-and-D guard. That is a role. Like be a star in your role. It's great. All right, let's go to this one here. This is from at John Pete Schwartz on Twitter. Says the Pistons right now have no identity as a team, which I would agree with because usually, you're looking at more offense leaning, defense leaning. For a little context, the Pistons were 27th in points per game last year and 26th in opponent points per game last year. So they were equally bad at both. I guess maybe that's an identity. But he says, what should the team identity be? And is developing an identity even possible given how poorly some of these core players, these core young players, might fit together?
It's a good question, and it's interesting because I think historically you look at the Pistons and they're always known as being a defensive first team. Like the championships that they've won have come out of that, and even I feel like in current day, like some of that going to work like bad boys era is still it's not the team's identity by any means, but I feel like the organization is a little bit marketed in that sense. But I think with
Clinging to it, perhaps?
yeah, and hey, I love it. I think the bad boy like logos and the jerseys they did last year were great. It's just interesting because the team isn't really built to that right now, and honestly, I'm not sure there is a team in the NBA that it just because of how the game has evolved. But I think with the Pistons specifically, like you have Cade Cunningham, he's never like he can be a good defender, but that's never what he's going to be known for. That's not really what you want him to be known for. That's your guy, and I feel like some of the players that they've drafted, like Jaden Ivey, even Ron Holland to a degree. Asar is the biggest one that you can say like he's going to be a good defender, but I think the team overall is built to hopefully be offense first, just like what it looks like on paper. And they need to be better defensively, but to me, it doesn't look like with this current roster, things can change. It doesn't look like defense is going to be their true identity. And given their core players, if that's something they can ever develop, I don't know. I think it's going to be a lot of figuring things out. Like, we still don't know if this thing is going to work with the core pieces that you have in place. Not all of them are going to be around forever. They're not going to be Pistons their entire careers. So that plays into it in a degree. I think we can learn more what Trajan Langdon sees or wants the team's identity to be by the moves he makes, and in this current state, like what JB Bickerstaff wants it to be. I know defense is still going to be preached and things need to start there. There needs to be a compete level. Like you can't just let teams score on you and be like, it's okay, I'm gonna go get a bucket on the other end, because that's not how it works. But I think overall, like it just seems like offense first to me, based on the players that they've drafted, the core that they have in place. We know there's been a priority to add some floor spacing for Cade. So I just think it's a little bit funny how the Pistons were always known as like defense, defense, defense. But now we might see a new era, which is cool. Who knows if it'll work out or what if they'll ever develop a true identity, but that's at least where I think it's going.
Well, and there's kind of a chicken and egg thing here. to me, this stuff, like the team identity thing, it just kind of like happens over time, especially with success. And then it self feeds, right? Because successful teams develop an identity or have an identity. And then having an identity like that helps you be even more successful. So I don't know really where it starts, but you could even, the Celtics right now, they're a 3-and-D type of team. They're a very, very great defensive team, and then they shoot a lot of threes, and that's just kind of what they did. The Warriors would obviously run you off the court, but it's not like they were bad at defense either. But they certainly had that offense first identity where, I'd kind of say the Celtics are defense first. Jokic and the Nuggets falls to the other side, more like the Warriors, right? So, this stuff just kind of develops over time. And I want to take you on a little history lesson, all right? Because the Pistons, even those '04 Pistons, did not start off as a fantastic defensive team. In fact, in the first year after Grant Hill, they were a better offensive team than they were a defensive team. They were 13th in points per game, 25th in opponent points per game. The following year, it's year two with Ben Wallace. They turn it around, right? So now they're 50 and 32, but they were 18th in points per game and then sixth in opponent points per game. The following year, you had Chauncey, you had Rip, draft Tayshaun Prince, 26th in points per game, first in opponent points per game. And then the following year, they win the championship. We know that they were a poor offense and they were a very, very good defense. And here's the thing with all of that. Every single season there, both the points per game that the team scored and the points per game that the team allowed the other team to score decreased every single year. Okay. So they start off as one thing, definitely an offense first team. They're in the top half of the league. They're in the bottom four of the league in defense. And then over time, as Ben Wallace really starts to assert himself, as all these other pieces start falling and fitting together, they become a great defensive team. And I don't think you would have sat there in the year 2000 and predicted that just 4 years later, the Pistons would not only be probably the best defense in history by the end of the year, but also would win the championship off the back of that. So my point is that who knows where this thing's going to go. And I think that's part of just being a fan of a team for a really long time. We get to see this develop. Right now, the Pistons are a blank slate. They were bad, really bad at both sides of the ball last year. I agree. Right now, they're pretty much set up to be a good offensive team, but where it goes after that, I mean, kind of up to Cade, Ivy, Ausar, Ron Holland, Jalen Duran, Isaiah Stewart, all these guys, where are they going to take steps? Where are they going to improve? And then how does the GM build it out from there? I think it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, it goes to show that you can say you have an identity or you can say what your identity is, but I feel like it doesn't, like, we don't remember a team's identity because they say it. I feel like we remember it because of what they do when they pretty much win a championship specifically. So I mean, not to say that the Pistons have to go to that point to have an identity and something to build off of. It's just tricky because it's really not something that we can, I guess, like factualize at this point. Like you said, we have to see where these players take us, and similar to that, like what the moves are that Trajan Langdon makes to build this roster, to see who they are, what they become, and how they, like, what their bread and butter is. We think it's going to be being offense first right now based on the roster, but maybe it's totally different. Like what happened in the '04 days, like you said, when you make all these steps defensively, you add a piece in Sheed who really like hammers that identity home. So you don't know where it's going to go. And I think just the stage where this team is, it's a total unknown. And like you said, it's interesting to see where it's going to go.
Yeah, and it's not like you even you mentioned like winning a championship. I can give you a couple of like defined historic identity teams that had a lot of success but never won anything. How about Memphis, grit and grind, those Grizzly teams with Mike Conley, Marcus All, Zach Randolph, right?
10
How
second
about
Suns.
I was gonna say, yeah, 10 seconds or less
Had to
Suns,
steal that
right?
one from you.
Yeah. I mean, those are both sides of the ball. Obviously, they're both in the Western Conference, but they never won anything. They're just very good teams for a very long time, and they definitely played a very specific way. So, I mean, yeah, it just it's anyone's guess where this is going to go, and hopefully it'll be pretty fun to watch, and will lead to a lot of success. We got a tough one next, though. Like I didn't even prep for this one because I didn't want to think about it, but we're going to have to talk about it now. This is from at Medina 1104, and I do want to apologize. You sent this one in last week. We didn't have time to get to it, but we're getting to it now. So he says there is plenty of talk about building around Cade Cunningham. But at what point would Trajan Langdon be right to move on from him instead?
Ooh, yeah, it's a tough one you don't even want to think about. I mean, so Cade obviously signed the extension, which means that this year, like before the extension kicks in, is his poison pill or whatever it is. And I honestly think you have 2 seasons into when the extension kicks in. Like if things are really stalling or not taking any steps, like that's when you can think about that. But I think things have to go drastically long, and there have been so many wrong. I'm sorry. There have been so many points where, especially through this last season, we were like, okay, this has to be rock bottom, and then something else happened. We're like, okay, this is rock bottom, and so on and so on. Like, I think you have to drop even for or just like not take steps at all. Like if you trade Cade Cunningham, you're clearing your books and you're saying like, okay, we're gonna strip this thing down to the studs again. And a lot of time for a lot of these teams, like finding the guy is the hardest part of a rebuild. We think that the Pistons have that in Cade. I mean, he still has a lot to prove. Like, it's not certain or anything like that, but by all means, like Cade Cunningham is going to be the guy that leads this franchise forward back into competition and it just being like a legit team in this league. And I think for Trajan Langdon to want to move on from that, like it has to be like, okay, we need to totally just restart this thing, which I don't think that can happen until like at least year two of when the extension kicks in, which would be 26, 27. But like honestly, maybe I'd even give that until year three.
I think I'm going to take a different end of this because I was just looking at Spot Track, and with how the cap is growing and the way this post rookie max is really set up, the contract right now, even next season when it first hits, it is very manageable. All right. So the first year is his highest percent cap hit. It'll be a quarter of the cap for the Pistons in 2025-26. It only drops from there. For comparison, Carl Anthony Towns signs his post rookie extension, not his post rookie extension, I should say, excuse me. This season, right, 24-25, he is 35% of the cap for the Wolves, and it does go down from there, but it only drops to 32. So my point with Cade is that for a guy who's giving you the production that he already is, he's already kind of a bargain, even if he plateaus from here on out. So I think the at what point are you right to move on from him is if you get through this entire next contract and you're kind of middle of the road. He is a very good player, but doesn't look like a superstar player, but he's demanding a superstar contract. Maybe then it would make sense to move on. Outside of that, even if they're bad, because of the way this lottery system is set up, we've seen it screw the Pistons already, right? So if you're just missing the playoffs, you got a shot. You don't have to be a top 5% team to get the top pick with the way that they disincentivize tanking. So even if the Pistons are bad, if Cade is playing out of his mind, the only way at that point that it would ever be right to move on during this contract is if he demands trade. It's already a deal. By the end of this contract, he's 22% of the cap. He'll be 28 years old. that's potentially even right now that's a steal. And that would be, by the way, he's making $51 million. So good Lord, are these numbers going way up. But point is, I just don't see it. Even if the team kind of plateaus and doesn't grow, unless he's asking out, it probably just makes sense to keep him.
Yeah, I think I've heard like Brian Windhorst and Bobby Marks refer to the rookie maxes as like the quote unquote fun max. So, I mean, because you're signing these players to humongous deals when they're mostly unproven. I mean, they've shown you something and you think they're going to grow from there. But yeah, I mean, looking at the cap and all the number, especially like that's what I was thinking when Isaiah Stewart signed his extension. Like maybe people thought it was an overpay, but when you think of the cap growing, it's gonna look like nothing. And that's, I mean, Cade is definitely a much higher percentage of the cap, but when you look at these guys who are on their like veteran super max contracts, it's not that. So yeah, like I don't know. Like it would have to go crazy wrong for Cade to request a trade. Like I don't even want to think about that really. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But I don't like if you're Cade in the third year of his extension is only going to be 26 years old. So I think if you're trading him at that point, like things either have to be going tremendously wrong, which hopefully they can't go more wrong than they already have, or like you said, he needs to one out.
Well, and so I just pulled up Anthony Edwards as well because Anthony Edwards, I think, made some sort of qualification to get a boost in the post rookie max. I don't remember if it was an All NBA team or what, but he did something and he got a little raise out of it, which those same structures are presumably in Cade's contract. So with Anthony Edwards, it's peaking at 30%, which is still less than Carl Anthony Towns, who is a massive, massive contract deal right after, and it drops down to 27. So even then, like it's just super manageable. But let's stay on Cade Cunningham, and let's end on kind of a fun question. This is from a mystery caller, but we'll play it.
Hello. How hardcore do you think Cade Cunningham will be next season on a scale of 1 to 11? Thank you.
All right, Blake. How nuts is Cade going to go? Give me a stat line. Give me a projection.
Wait, Wes, can you tell me if you know? Like, I feel like there's an inside joke between this like 1 to 11 scale. I want to say maybe I saw it in like a DBB comment on a post, but it seems like you don't know what it is. But
I don't know for sure, but I do know that there is a really dumb but very funny movie called Spinal Tap. Have you watched this?
no.
Okay, well, the relevant bit is that it's this failing rock band. They're doing a tour, and there's a mockumentary being made about them. That's the movie. And in the mockumentary, they're all proud. They say they get their speakers custom ordered to go to 11. All the dials go to 11
Uh,
because it's one louder. And of course, the interviewer says, but it's the same speaker. It gets as loud, and they will absolutely no, we reject that. 11, it's one more than 10. It's one louder. So that's
okay.
my guess. I could be wrong, but funny movie. You should watch it.
I will. Maybe it's that. I feel like there was probably a YouTube clip along with this inside joke, if I'm remembering correctly, in the DBB comments. But man, 1 to 11, like I feel like because I think I saw someone in the comments say 12, so I'm gonna say 12. And to do that, I
Love it.
don't
Yeah.
know. What if uh, being at a 12, what do you have to do? Like 26 and a half, 8 and 5, and then you're definitely and hopefully an all-star unless the team is crazily bad. So yeah, we're all expecting Cade to be at least what he has been and take a step. So with how this question is framed, let's get crazy, I guess.
I'm gonna give I'm saying 12 as well, just because it's fun. If I got to give a projection for like a stat line for him, I'm thinking 24, 8 and 4. That would be my guess. So a little less, but still really stinking good.
Yeah, yeah, and hey, you never know. You never know. Yeah, YouTube user says Cade averages a triple
Bold, I love
double.
it.
That would definitely be at least a 12. So we'll see. Got to get those
Might be a
rebounding.
13, Blake. I don't know. That'd be insane.
Got to get those rebounding numbers up, which I am not sure you can get that high, but hey, if it happens, that would be really cool.
All right. Well, fun to end on a positive note here. We're going to close it down, but everyone who tuned in live, we appreciate you. We appreciate all the questions here, the interactions on the comments. And yeah, we're just excited to be talking hoops in the middle of August. There's nothing going on, but we're having a good time.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for joining in the dead of the off season where there's not much going on. It's still fun to talk Pistons and get ready for the season though. And thank you to our mystery caller for that voicemail question. We appreciate you, whoever you are. Reminder, everyone can call the number to ask a question and hear your voice on the show. The number for that is 313-355-2717. And special thanks to Sean Court, managing editor of Detroit Bad Boys, for supporting the show. And shout out to you guys for all the great questions and talking points tonight. We'll catch you next week, whether on your commute or live with us on YouTube. We can't wait to talk more Detroit basketball with you all.